Fran Brown and Syracuse are learning the transfer portal, but what do they got to do next to take the big step for the Cuse?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into a crossover edition of Locked On the Portal and Locked On Syracuse. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making both Locked On Syracuse and Locked On the Portal a part of your day each and every day right here on the nation's #1 podcast network, Locked On. We're going to be discussing Syracuse at Notre Dame. We're going to get to that. Can Syracuse even make that a close game? And what would it do for recruiting? What would it do for the transfer portal? That's later on. Fran Brown. Overall, is there somebody with a bigger personality and has had a more impactful ability to recruit than Fran at Syracuse? We're going to get to that as well. We're going to talk about Steve Angeli, his injury, what's his progress. Is he going to be their guy for not just next year, but maybe 2 years? But to start off, the most important thing we're going to talk about today, the transfer portal. How has Syracuse used it to date, and what have they learned to get better for 2026? 2027 and beyond? Let's talk to Jackson Holzer, Locked On Syracuse, to start with that. Were you happy with the additions that Syracuse made, Jackson, to begin this year? Were you we should have added here or there? Or were you just, you know what? They did what they needed. What do you think about that in hindsight?
In hindsight, I do think that they actually did a pretty good job, and they just got completely screwed with the quarterback situation. I still believe that Syracuse football this year would have been able to field a relatively respectable power conference team had Steve Angeli remained healthy for the entire season, but he goes down against Clemson, and then we know the rest is history. Ricky Collins is one of, if not the worst starting quarterbacks in a power conference team right now, and Syracuse's roster, quite frankly, is not good enough to be able to overcome that bad of quarterback play. And you could sit here and say, well, that's because they didn't do the transfer portal well enough. They didn't recruit well enough. And I just, given their limitations already, we're not Alabama, we're not Georgia, we're not LSU, we're not any of the other big time programs. We're not a Miami in the ACC or anything like that. They don't have the same NIL like these other schools. So you have to look in regards to how they do relative to what they can do. And I think you saw signs early on in the season that they kind of looked like they were hitting on some guys. First of all, they know how to get the quarterback right. They got Kyle McCord correct in 2024. They look like they got Steve Angeli right for 2025 before the injury. And you're going to have your miss here or there. But going out and getting Jonte Cook, I loved the addition of Jonte Cook. I knew it was a boomer bust. Yeah, it could go either way with him, but we saw in the first few games of the year, Jonte Cook was exactly as advertised. He was a really good player for Syracuse football. Justice Ross Simmons was maybe a little bit more under the radar transfer portal addition they made in 2024. Didn't see the field a whole lot because of injury. He was on his way to having a really good season. Chris Peel is a corner from Georgia, having a pretty nice year for Syracuse. Would definitely like him back for the 2026 season. Where they need to improve in the portal, and this is really going to be the complicated part, is in the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. Aside from Fidel Diggs, they have not exactly done a really good job over the past couple of years addressing the offensive line and defensive line. But as you just pointed out, Brian, for the YouTube audience, a lot of it comes down to money because those are premium positions right there, offensive line and defensive line. So honestly, I think they're doing a fine job with the transfer portal, but now you need to beef up the NIL a little bit more and go address the linemen. Because remember, they lost Murad Watson to Texas in the offseason because Texas just threw him a bunch of money. And more power to Murad Watson. I take nothing away from him for doing it, for taking the money, because, that's what he probably should do in that scenario. But if you're Syracuse, you also have to be the team that could be, willing to give the money or actually have the ability to give the money, I should say.
That is the big question. So I knew you were going to bring that up. Let me ask you this. Do you think, and I have no idea what Syracuse's booster situation is, every year, whether it's an O or a D lineman, they should pony up for that one guy? Especially the way Fran's offense has done such a great job. What's the offensive coordinator for the Cuse?
Jeff Nixon.
Jeff has done a tremendous job. I mean, especially with their, for lack of a better term, okay offensive line. They're not exactly pushing teams off the ball and playing bully ball on 3rd and 1. They scheme some things up. If you give him one more offensive tackle, maybe it's a starting center, and you're fortunate enough to keep your quarterback, that offense is nasty because nobody has done a better job with wide receivers over the last 2 years in Syracuse, in my opinion. Every background possible. It's been good. It's been bad. It's been obvious. It's not. Those guys perform. But the quarterback can't make the throws if he's on his butt, and you still got to convert 3rd and short. I think they should dive some of their money either into a DT or an OT every year. If you can't get a ton, okay, it is what it is. Get a guy and pay him. What do you think?
I'm 100% with you on that, and I think that starts from within. You got a true freshman in Byron Washington right now that's playing at a relatively high level for Syracuse. Again, as a true freshman, you don't want this to become another Murad Watson situation where there's another team out there in the portal that says, hey, Byron, we know you like Syracuse, but how about take a bunch of money to come play for this school and we can develop you and you could start here and make a ton of money before you eventually become an NFL player. So you have to start from retaining your own. So keep Byron Washington, add another lineman that's expensive here or there that also can perform, and now you're really cooking. Because the way the Syracuse offense works is you don't necessarily need the Great Wall of Dallas in order for it to function. It's an offense where it relies on its quarterback to make a lot of pre-snap reads, and you're getting rid of the ball within 2 seconds. If you can get rid of the ball within 2 seconds to an open wide receiver, your offensive line can get pancaked the whole time, and it almost wouldn't even really matter because the ball's already out of the quarterback's hands. In fact, Brian, there's a specific play that I always mention on Locked On Syracuse. It was in 2024, final game of the regular season. Syracuse was playing Miami. It was the beginning of the second half, and Kyle McCord threw a deep ball to Trevor Pena. And Trevor Pena looked like he was Randy Moss. He went up and he got the ball. If you actually go back and you watch the film of that play, every Syracuse lineman is on their you-know-what. They got completely pushed back. It was hilarious. But Kyle McCord got rid of the ball within like a half second, so it doesn't matter. I mean, that's the Syracuse offense. So it's not like we're saying you need to go get 5 really strong offensive linemen here. Just get 1 or 2, and you should be fine.
Well, for those that don't know and why Jackson's probably concerned about Byron Washington, he played at DeSoto High School in the greater Dallas area. I wonder if the Longhorns would be interested in him considering their offensive line woes.
It's not even just Texas. I mean, there's plenty of other programs that are out there. I mean, how about Texas Tech? They're investing quite a bit in NIL now. They're doing some things. That's just in Texas. Any other school in the country you pick that has a lot of NIL. I'm not going to sit here and say, Byron Washington, Ohio State, but Ohio State has a ton of money. If they decided they want Byron Washington in the offseason, could they go out and get him if they want it? Of course they can. That's my point, is if you're Syracuse, if another big school comes calling and says, we want your player, how do you come up with the funds to be able to match it? Because they might be overpaying the player, for being honest. They might. I mean, Penn State overpaid Trevor Pena, but they took the player anyway because they're like, screw it. We have the money. We can just do it anyway.
Penn State's got a lot of cash. They're finishing up a $700 million stadium renovation. That is just insane. So, yeah, I would say that's one of them that has some cash. To that point, when we come back, I want to talk about Steve Angeli. Hopefully, he has some players around him from the portal. We're going to talk about that next on this crossover. Locked on Syracuse and Locked on the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, where the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything. Who scores next, fourth quarter comebacks, or anything else you can imagine in an NBA game. Plus, you can even combine live stats for a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when you're making a late fourth quarter comeback with your favorite team. Right now, FanDuel is giving customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is where you can get all the action to go to see your favorite college football games, and it's been a great season. A lot of fun with teams around the country making a playoff run, tailgates, rivalries, everything that's going on, all the energy in the stands. Nothing like it, but all the hidden fees and was cues to get the tickets could be more of a problem than actually playing the game itself. That's why I use Game Time, and I actually just got 2 tickets on Game Time to take the advantage back to me, a fan just like you. I bought 2 tickets. I was in and out of the app in 5 minutes, and that includes putting in my credit card information. Found the game, found the seats, could even see my seat view on my phone. It was very easy with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, Jackson. Do you think Syracuse will spend a little bit more this offseason, or do you think it's going to be a scenario where it's going to be about the same? If you had to guess, because, I mean, we think we'll get into Steve in a second. Is this going to be better, or have they flatlined? Where you at?
Well, I would say already that they've probably spent more. Here's the thing.
Really?
Syracuse is a private university. They don't disclose anything. So you kind of have to use your best educated guess. Syracuse is recruiting for the class of 2026, currently top 25 in the nation per 24/7 Sports. That has not happened in the recruiting era, which goes about 2 decades. That's when all the major sites really started popping up, and you could start really seeing public rankings for all these players and these teams. So Syracuse football has its best recruiting class in over 20 years. They got a 5-star in Calvin Russell. They just flipped a guy into Darius Hughes from Florida State, which we talked about here on the show, Brian. They've already spent a lot of money because as great as of a relationship builder Fran Brown is, we know those players don't come cheap either. So they're already spending more money probably than usual, and that's a really good thing for Syracuse. You got to dive into NIL too. You can't just be the one team saying we don't want to dive into NIL. Okay, fine, and congratulations on getting all the second and third tier players in high school and in the transfer portal, right? They do need to get better in the portal. It starts from retaining a couple of key guys, and that's the thing. You don't need to retain everyone from your roster this year. You can trim the fat if you want. Who do you need to prioritize? Steve Angeli, I think that's a given that he's going to come back, but you still got to make sure that he actually does come back to be your quarterback, assuming that you want him to be your quarterback, which I think we all do, right? So you need to make sure you keep him. Demetrius Samuel, big-time recruit, true freshman playing this year, high level, could be a true freshman All-American this season. Now, he's already publicly stated that he's coming back to Syracuse. My guess is that's because Syracuse has taken care of him nicely. So that's a good job right there. You're getting back Demetrius Samuel. You're getting back I hope you get back Antoine Delorier, true freshman linebacker. He's a stud. He's having a great year. That's another pillar you want on defense for future years. Byron Washington, we talked about in the first segment. He's an offensive lineman. Outside of a few of those guys, though, you can go do whatever you want. You have you should have a lot of money available to you. And I'm not saying we're going to go get, the number 1 and number 2 guys in the portal, but I am optimistic that I think this portal class is going to be better this year than it was last year, and maybe more so than it was in 2024, which is going to be hard to beat because that one had Kyle McCord and Fadil Diggs in it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And thank you to everybody for checking out Locked On Syracuse and Locked On the Portal, your team every day. I'm curious if they know this is a big if. Anytime you have an Achilles injury, that's iffy, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's super touchy. It's not a lock that Steve will be ready by the middle of next season. Who knows? So the first question is, for the love of mankind and for the sanctity of Syracuse fans, will Syracuse find another quarterback besides, I won't even say his name, that has been playing for the Cuse here recently? Because Steve's probably not going to be ready for fall camp, like at 100%. Now, he might be able to throw it around, but would you want him out there if it was real live tackle football and he had to avoid somebody? They oftentimes take 15 months or more to recover from. Just is what it is. So do you think they'll get another quarterback? And number 2, I'm going to come back to something I touched on in the first part of the show. Let that young man have a stud out of the portal that's an offensive lineman. Do you think there's a chance they at least do that on one of those 2 fronts?
With the quarterback, It's so tricky, Brian. I do think they are going to add a quarterback in the portal.
Okay.
Or, hear me out, they are poking around with Peyton Falzone. Class of 2026, he's an Auburn commit. Auburn fired their coach. Kids from Pennsylvania. Syracuse was in on him before he committed to Auburn. I think there might be something brewing there. We'll see if ultimately they are able to flip him. But even if they were to flip him, which would, I think, be fantastic for Syracuse if you get a guy like Peyton Falzone as your quarterback, that's still going to be a true freshman. That's still ideally someone who you don't want taking snaps in 2026, unless he's ready. If he's ready, he's ready. You play him. We already saw with Mason Heinschel at Pitt, true freshmen, they can be ready to play. But ideally, you don't. You have Steve Angeli. So my guess is that regardless, they're going to add a quarterback in the transfer portal unless they feel that one of the young guys currently on the roster is ready to be a backup, whether that be Luke Carney, whether that be Rich Bellin, whether that be Joe Filardi. Maybe they see a lot of promise in Joe Filardi because he's already playing a little bit this year. Who knows? I just hope that Steve Angeli's injury can heal quicker. Like, I really do. I mean, that's, I think, what every Syracuse fan is thinking right now, because it's just like, we don't want another season of punting away. I don't like this. It's fine to punt this year. We get it because Steve Angeli got hurt. Ricky Collins ain't very good. We understand that. I don't want to do that again in 2026. I'm not interested in that. And I think with Steve Angeli, they're targeting him to come back in the spring. But would he even be 100% in the spring? Brian, it's possible. It's possible. You know, technology has evolved over the past, 10, 15 years with these torn Achilles. It's no longer, and he's a quarterback. He's not a running back. If he's a running back, I think he might be done for. But he's a quarterback who wasn't known for his mobility anyway, so he can come back. It's possible. We'll see. And the offensive lineman, yeah. I mean, we touched on it in the first segment. I really hope they invest heavy in at least one big-time offensive lineman. I think that would be huge for Syracuse. Absolutely enormous. Because you get that one stud offensive lineman, you keep Byron Washington already in the fold. That's 2/5 of your offensive line that could play at a well above average level for next season.
That's a fair statement. So let's talk about the Fran Brown effect on everything you just said. Do you have faith in Fran to make the right decision? Because he's a heck of a recruiter. He knows how to build rosters with whatever resources they have. And as you noted, we really don't know what they are. It's a private school. That stuff's touchy. There are private dealings, yada, yada, yada. Will he make the right choice for Syracuse, in your opinion? And just basically, do you have faith in Fran?
Yes. In fact, I would probably give him a contract extension this offseason after a 3-9 year potentially. I would still give him a contract extension.
Okay. Why?
We know his recruiting is already really good. We already know he can build relationships. He also has the ability to show that he can correct a mistake that he made. The quarterback situation this season, it was the perfect storm of unfortunate events. First of all, you want to go back to December of 2024. They tried to get Kyle McCord a 5th year of eligibility. They tried. But Kyle McCord eventually just said, you know what? I want to go to the NFL anyway, so I'm not going to wait around for the NCAA to make up their mind whether or not I get a 5th year. He decided to go pro. While they were trying to get him to potentially come back, they missed out on some of the other quarterbacks that were already available in the portal. So in essence, Ricky Collins was the only guy they could possibly get, because Ricky Collins was someone saying, I could wait 1 year behind Kyle McCord and then be the starting quarterback, or be the starting quarterback for Syracuse in 2025. I think that's what he was also ultimately sold on when he came here. So you got Ricky Collins. You watched him for months, realized he wasn't very good, and instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to double down on Ricky Collins, I'm going to go out and get the guy from Notre Dame who had a legitimate shot to win the starting job in Steve Angeli. So that to me shows me that Fran Brown is not afraid to go out there and correct a mistake that he made. He's not going to be perfect. He's not going to bat 1,000. He's going to get guys that don't work. Spoiler alert, that happens to every team in America where they go out and they get someone, whether it's a highly ranked recruit or a highly ranked portal addition, and it does not work for whatever reason. Every coach in America, every team in America. So Fran is not perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's about being able to compensate for the fact that you made a mistake instead of doubling down on it, saying, Ricky's our guy. we're not going to go get Steve Angeli. We're going to go with Ricky Collins. Could you imagine what this season would be like if Ricky was the starter from day one? They would be 1-11. That's what it would be. 1-11. You'd have your win against Colgate, and you would not win a single other game. You're not beating UConn with Ricky Collins. That's for sure. That ain't happening. Who else are you going to beat? I don't think they're going to beat Boston College in the final game of the season. But if you do beat Boston College with a backup quarterback, congratulations. You're 2-10 if you don't have Steve Angeli.
Boston College has actually played decent the last few weeks.
That's what I'm saying. Boston College should have beaten Georgia Tech this past weekend.
They hung in there with Notre Dame for a while too.
Boston College is a bad team record-wise, but I think they are a better team relative to their record. I think if you told me that Boston College was really a 4-win team right now, or even a 3-win team, that would make more sense. The fact that they have 1 win, I think, is just unlucky. I think sometimes you're just in these one-score games and you don't have a lot of talent, and so therefore the other team eventually pulls ahead, or you just get unlucky. Like I said, sometimes you're in coin flip games and the coin doesn't flip your way.
To that end, speaking of the Irish, 35-point line this weekend.
I just hope everyone I hope everyone has fun.
Do you think that game will hinder Syracuse on the recruiting trail or anything? Because I think they're going to get blasted.
Mm-mm.
What is your take on it? Because I expect something like 45-14 or something of that nature.
They just got blown out before the bye week at Miami with Calvin Russell in attendance. And Calvin Russell, I think a few days ago, said publicly that his recruitment is locked down, that he will sign with Syracuse. So if Calvin Russell isn't flipping from Syracuse after watching his hometown team destroy Syracuse in Hard Rock Stadium, I think they'll be fine with getting clobbered at Notre Dame. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe it's going to cause some Syracuse recruits to want to flip to Notre Dame. I don't know. It's recruiting. But if the Miami game didn't hurt Syracuse recruiting, if the fact that they got to Darius Hughes to flip from Florida State to Syracuse despite the season, I get flipping from Florida State, by the way. Totally understand that. But flipping to Syracuse after the season they're having right now, you could have gone any other school in the country to Darius, but you chose Syracuse. Hats off to you. I'm really happy. They should be fine with another blowout loss. They'll get clobbered. It'll be whatever. Will they be competitive? Brian, if they're competitive in this game, I'll be so happy. I'll celebrate it like it's a win. I really will. If they're if they somehow have like an outside possibility of winning this game in the third quarter, I'll go on the podcast for Locked on Syracuse and say, you know what? They really gave it their all. They tried their best, and we should commend them on this game. They're going to lose by 100. To steal a line from Pat Narduzzi. Like, I hope everyone just gets out happy and healthy, truthfully. Like, what are the odds that they actually... Notre Dame on the road in the freezing cold in November. They have everything to play for right now. There's no breakdown of this game. You can't give a breakdown of this game. If a loss somehow occurs for Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman should be fired. That's how bad it would be. You can't lose. You cannot lose to... I said that about Mario Cristobal. I'm saying it about Marcus Freeman. I know everyone at Notre Dame loves him. If Notre Dame loses to Syracuse this weekend, you got to let the guy go. Goodbye. You're not a good enough head coach. I'm sorry. You're not. You can't beat Ricky Collins or Joe Filardi at home. What?
Yeah.
Brian, you think this is going to be anywhere? There's 2 ways that Syracuse can possibly cover. 2.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 1, Notre Dame starts flat. Possible. They could start out flat on offense. For whatever reason, they don't get going. Miami came out and they started flat against Syracuse. Could happen. Number 2, Notre Dame goes up by so much, they put in all their third and fourth teamers. They take their foot off the gas, and Syracuse gets a nice late touchdown to make it look a little bit prettier, and they cover. Other than that, it's not happening. There's no shot.
Fair enough. I think we'll leave it there because it sounds like Jackson is not in on the Syracuse pulling the upset. I'll just refrain from asking that question. I think that we get
Brian,
the.
you think they're going to be competitive in this game?
I think the halftime score will be somewhere around 24-3, so probably not.
I think that's, you know what? I'm curious to know how you have Syracuse getting 3 points.
Notre Dame will have a fumble or something. That's the
Okay. Because I don't think that Syracuse is going to be able to go down the field. I really don't. I think the only way it happens is if you get some sort of weird special teams play. Maybe a punter shanks a punt.
It's possible.
Maybe you break off a big run from Yassine Willis. I mean, it can happen. Someone misses a gap assignment. Someone misses a tackle. Next thing you know, your guy is going 60 yards down the field. An interception. Who knows? They're not going up and down the field on them. So that's why I asked if you think how they're going to score 3 points.
Yeah, turnover is special teams. I think the over-under on Syracuse total yardage is about 250.
250. I would put it at 125 over under.
I say it's 250 because Notre Dame, it's senior day. They will pull their starters early third quarter or late third quarter, early fourth to put in guys. It's senior day.
You know what's the funny thing, though, about Notre Dame? Is that Steve Angeli, you said before we recorded this, that he was third in their QB race this offseason. That means he was third team. Notre Dame third teamers are a lot of them better than Syracuse first teamers, especially right now. So
that is also true.
So what does that do for Syracuse? Instead of playing Jeremiah Love, you're going against their guy who's going to be maybe their running back next year, who's going to eventually be a second round pick in the NFL. I don't know.
Aeneas Williams. Yeah, he's really good.
Okay, cool. Let's have fun. I just hope, again, I hope everyone's happy. I hope everyone's healthy. I hope everyone stays as warm as possible. You can get home and maybe you can beat Boston College to end the year. I hope you can beat Boston College at the end of the year. That's a winnable game. You have no chance this weekend. You have none. Take your TV revenue and move on.
Fair enough. That's where we'll end it right there. Jackson, I appreciate doing the crossover. Tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Sure. I am the host of Locked On Syracuse. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also available on all social media platforms, Locked On Syracuse, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find Locked On Syracuse over there. My personal Twitter is at Jackson_H_52.
Appreciate it, sir. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods. Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and of course on YouTube. This has been a crossover Locked On Syracuse and Locked On the Portal.